You are listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfre and Bill Lowell. We want to help demystify marketing to reduce risk, drive more and better opportunities, and grow your business. Are you ready to master marketing?
All right, I'm Pete Monfre, and why don't we get into the B2B Marketing Mindset right away here. It is episode 104. And so I'm here with my friend Jeremy Shere from Expert Content Pros. Now, he is an expert in using video to fill the sales pipeline, and he's here to share some wisdom on how and why and how it works, tools, strategies to use video, how AI is making it easier than ever to create hard-hitting video that drives straight to the bottom line, because that's really a trick. But hey, listen, if you're seeing this video live, do us a big favor, and to our point, hit like, comment, or share, because LinkedIn's algorithm shows the video to a subset of followers for the first hour. And so if we get likes, comments, and shares, it's going to increase our distribution reach. So we really appreciate that. And for every like, I'll take off a piece of clothing. Or maybe I should put on an additional piece of clothing. I don't know. Let me know what you prefer in the comments. But first, let me just share this with you really quick. B2B Marketing Mindset is brought to you by the Agency's Founders Network. It's an invitation-only new platform for early-stage marketing services companies. You can build relationships, get advice from peers and experts, and upskill to be more strategic and solve growth problems, which we all have. And so we're all about helping you build a seven-figure business. So you can apply for membership now at agencyfoundersnetwork.com. And let's welcome our guest, Mr. Jeremy Shere. That's S-H-E-R-E. Welcome.
Well, thanks, Pete. Great. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, this is such a great title, and we were just talking, right before we went on here that, they've really been talking about video exploding on the internet, for really a long time. And but I think it's really happening in earnest now, like on a level that I don't think that people have really been able to foresee. I mean, are you seeing that same thing as well? I mean, it's much, much bigger than I think what people were kind of predicting. At least that's the way it seems to me.
Well, yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I feel like I've been hearing about video as, the number one kind of content forever, ever since I first got into this stuff, and started doing what I do. But there always seemed to me to be kind of a gap between the claims about video and how people were actually using it. And I got to say, still to this day, when I go on LinkedIn, when I'm scrolling through my feed, it's like 90% text. And I don't even know if it's 10% video. I mean, it just feels to me like I rarely see video on there. And the video I do see is from people like me who, do video creation and offer that as a service. So I still feel like the average person, the average business owner, the average marketer on LinkedIn is still defaulting to text most of the time. But that's something we can talk about, like why that may be. But I guess I do sense that we're at a time when we're right on the precipice when video really could explode.
Yeah.
But there are all kinds of reasons why I think it hasn't in the way that maybe that we thought it would. But and reasons why I think that it might going forward.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that. I really wasn't thinking about that very much, but that's my experience too. I don't see a lot of video, for example, like what you are seeing right now, if you are seeing us. And I think there's a bunch of reasons for that. I think there are some technical barriers. You and I probably don't think about that very much, but the average person, I think. I think it's also difficult for people to just talk to the camera and be comfortable with that and have something to say. It's difficult. I mean, we make it look easy. It's not easy. And then I think you see a lot of terrible video.
Yeah.
And of course, I want to make a distinction. We're not talking about the TikTok video with the obnoxious girl dancing in the mall. That video has certainly exploded, but we're really talking about video for a purpose right now, and that purpose is, how do we use the video to drive the funnel and to actually have a solid impact on the business? And video is kind of unique in how it can do that. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But do you want to take just a couple minutes? Tell us about your company.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, I just want to, just acknowledge what you just said. Of course, you're right. Like TikTok, all these other platforms, video on there has absolutely exploded, right? But we're talking specifically in the world of B2B marketing. It hasn't gotten there yet. A lot of talk about it, a lot of interest, but people aren't really doing it at the scale that you think they might be, given the overall popularity of video. But okay, anyway, so just wanted to acknowledge that. So my company, Expert Content Pros, I'm the co-founder. My co-founder is Yanni Lunga, a fellow I met on a networking platform called Lunch Club, which is a great place to meet people. And we're all about founder-led video marketing. I mean, that to put it as simply as possible, what that means is we help B2B brands get their leaders on video all across the sales funnel, everywhere that their ideal clients are, to help them engage with their audience. Because our at the heart of what we do is the notion that for any B2B company, especially if you're a startup, a scale up, or any even a little bit beyond that, your founder, your leaders, your subject matter experts, those are your number one best marketing assets. Those are the people who, they create the company, right? They have the insights that make your company what it is, and that can really help you stand out from your competitors. But you need to get that message out there. And so you need to have ways to get your founder, get your CEO on video, showing up as themselves. It can't be too scripted, right, or overproduced. You want them showing up as themselves everywhere that your clients are, so that they can get to know you and earn trust, and build authority. Because like we all know, that's the very first step to getting anybody, not just in your funnel, but also moving through it.
Yeah, and I think it's the next best thing to being there, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's kind of part of the idea. I also read that LinkedIn, the reach for live video, like people ask, why do you guys do this live? Like you don't get a lot of live viewers. Oh, no, we don't. And that's not, we don't care about that. That's not why we do it live. Why do we do it live? Well, one, it's efficient, really efficient.
Mhm.
There's no editing involved. We're editing it right now on the fly. And the other thing is, LinkedIn, and we broadcast to 5 platforms in video live, and then of course the next day it goes out through syndication. But that's the audio part. And but LinkedIn, you get a 12 times more reach with live video. Now we need you to like it, we need you to comment, we need you to share it, and that's going to help us achieve that number. But that is a big deal. But it's funny, we met on one of these platforms, these communities
Yeah.
like Agency Founders Network. And you mentioned that those communities have even more engagement, like off the charts more engagement
hmm
than LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is just massive, right? And
Yeah,
so
well, right. Like before we started recording, we were talking about this a little bit. And at least for me, I've found that I get arguably more value. I mean, let me pause. I want to say LinkedIn is amazing. LinkedIn's awesome. I'm on there every single day. And, I'm trying to do everything I can to get the most out of that. But alongside that, I also belong to other communities like Exit 5, right? A
Exit
marketing,
5 is awesome.
right? And what I like about it is that it's more niche, it's more focused. So like on LinkedIn, I'm, broadcasting my message to just anybody who's on there, all the millions. I don't know how many people are on LinkedIn, but it's a lot, right? I was about to say billion.
200
I'm not sure if that's
million people, I believe it is.
yeah, right. And it's just, and you can kind of curate and hope to reach just the people you're trying to talk to. And if you use Sales Navigator, that's a really good way to hone in. But in any case, alongside LinkedIn, I belong to other communities too. And I like ones that are more focused, like Exit 5 on marketing. And so there I know I'm talking specifically to people in the world of B2B marketing, and it's just a little more focused, a little easier to get in touch with the people I want to talk to.
Actually, I was wrong. It's 1 billion members in 200 countries. And 25% of users are senior level influencers. About 10 million are categorized as C-level executives, and 63 million, LinkedIn says, are decision makers. So,
Well, there
yeah,
you go.
just big,
Powerful
big,
platform
big.
for sure.
And that's part of the challenge too, then. So, like I get an enormous amount of value out of these other types of communities because I think there's just, first of all, it's gonna be a group of people that you have much more in common with. But when I
Yeah.
make a post, it gets engagement. LinkedIn, sometimes we get a little engagement, sometimes we don't. I mean, we have to be much more uh, conscious of the algorithm and how we set things up. And there's just a lot more to it on LinkedIn, but it's still just hugely, hugely powerful. This podcast, there's a reason they have 104 episodes. We do it every week because it's been very powerful for our funnel. And
Hmm.
so, I think this is just such a great topic. So I hope you all will pay attention. Um, and we had you on last time, by the way. I may as well acknowledge this. And LinkedIn was the problem in that case. They just had an absolute meltdown, and we just wanted to have Jeremy back because he just has so much great knowledge, and I learned from him, and it's I'm excited to talk about this topic. So let's get to our first point here. So
Yeah.
why is video so powerful?
Well, I think, I don't have anything new to add here, really. I think most people already kind of know this, but because on video, if you do it the right way, you're showing up as yourself. I think you said it, it's the next best thing to being there in person. In person is the number one way to get to know someone, but everything I do is remote. And so showing up on video is it's the next best thing. People can see you, they can hear you, they can read your body language a little bit. If your goal, and I think as it should be, is to let people in, allow people to get to know you and learn to trust you a little bit. Because like I said just before, that's the first step. No one's gonna jump on a call with you or want to do business before they know you as a person and especially have learned to trust you. And I think compared to other media, compared to written content or still images and so on, video is clearly the best for showing up as yourself and giving people a sense of who you are and what it would be like to talk to you and hang out with you and work with you.
Well, and there's a lot of psychology in that, in the way that people want to see. There's very subtle cues that we give off in the way that we are. They can tell when you're not being authentic. They don't
Yeah.
have to be an FBI, body language expert. They can tell right away. I also saw that it's shared a lot more often. People are much more likely to share video than they are stills or um, text.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the algorithms that want you to do video, whether it's live. You don't have to do this live, by the way. We do it
Sure.
live. It's a bit harder, I have to admit. We make more mistakes, which makes it more fun. Um, but I had a nice compliment. Somebody mentioned that they told this to my co-host Bill Lowell, who can't be here today. Unfortunately, he will be here next week. But they said that, wow, Pete is really just what you see is what you get.
Uh-huh.
And I just thought that was the greatest compliment. I share stuff about my life. I've got goofy stuff behind me. Everything has a story. Um, it's just such a much more. It's like if text is one channel, video is 1,000 channels of communication. And so the way you use it, um, you can really leverage it. So yeah, video is super powerful.
Yeah, I mean, a few things to add there. I think one, compared to text, I think it's just a lot harder in text to display your personality and to really get people to know you. Unless you're a really, really good writer. And even so, like when people are just kind of browsing, but it's just, as we all know, like the whole style on LinkedIn of writing a post, if every line is its own paragraph, you got to keep things short. It's really hard through that to for your personality to shine through. And in video, if you do it the right way, if you're just showing up as yourself and it's not fake and it's authentic, then it's just so much easier for, for people to get to know you. I will add though that just like video done the right way can be a really powerful attractant, bring people to you, make people be like, oh, that seems like a cool guy. I want to get to know him more. If it's done the wrong way, it can have the opposite effect, right? With the kind of wrong kind of power. It can repel, it can repulse people. Because if it's too slick, if it seems too corporate or overproduced, I think people will dismiss it as just marketing. Or if it's just shitty, if you can't hear it, if it looks bad, then that's obviously a bad look. So you do have to take care, like with any content, to make sure that it's good, and that can mean different things. But we can talk more about this, like what does good video look like, right?
Yeah.
Like what's the level of production that you're going for, given the context. But obviously that matters.
Well, and in fact, this idea that it's not enough just to be there, you have to be there and do it well, because people don't think of that any sort of marketing communications, like it's not enough just to have a website. You need to deliver a certain kind of experience there, or it will actually damage your business. You can't
Yeah.
just say, "Hey, well, we're done. We have something." And I've had some people say that this program is overproduced. Right? We have some titles, we've got branding, we've got little things. Maybe, but I think that you don't have to go as far as where we're going. I mean, we try to use every part of the screen for a purpose. We have the title up that's persistent through the whole program. There's a reason for it. The little live thing that flashes is a reason for it. Of course, we want the brand on there. We have a call to action on there. We have a scroll that tells you credits and where you can find the program. So there's no wasted space. Is it a little more complicated? Yes. Do you have to do it that way? No, you can do something much simpler, but you need to have a good amount of light. Like I'm a little bit dark today. We'll work on that. And you want to have good audio. Like these microphones are not just because we think they're cool. There's a reason.
They
I
are
think
cool, but
they're kind of cool.
yeah,
Bad audio will chase people off faster than anything that you could do. You can get
right.
away with some pretty terrible audio or video, but if
Yeah.
your audio's bad, you're not going to get away with it. And so other things, if I could throw this out,
Yeah.
I have trained myself to look at the camera, because if people are doing this, there's a psychological aspect to that, right? And I see this a lot. Or somebody's reading like this, and they're
Yeah.
reading and they're stiff and they're reading, and there's a psychology to this. And so you want to be talking right to the viewer. Anyway, I don't want to steal your thunder, but this is a
Well, I mean,
good. Go
let's
ahead.
talk about that, right? Because I think, there are different ways to produce video, and there's no one right way to do it. It's more about like what's the outcome that you want. And I think in every case, the outcome is that you want the people watching the video to have a good experience, and you want them to come away from your video clip saying, that was cool. I learned something, and that Pete seems like a cool guy. Like I want to know more about him. And you want them to click to your profile and then maybe want to actually talk to you. That is the goal. And so whatever is going to get you there, and it depends who your audience is. So different audiences might find different kinds of video, compelling. So again, there's no one right way to do it, but I think that there are a couple of basic rules of thumb that don't change no matter who your audience is. And I think you hit on one of them just now, that one strategy for doing video is to script it out. You write a script. Maybe you have, if you don't know what you're doing, then yeah, you might be looking down and kind of reading it off a piece of paper. That's not good because, like you just said, then you're not looking at the camera, and that's not great, right? That's a bad experience for the viewer. But I would argue that even if you're using some kind of teleprompter technology where you can just look straight ahead at the camera and read the script at the same time, unless you're really, really good at that, then it's going to be suboptimal because people can kind of tell that you're reading a script, and let's acknowledge there's all kinds of technology now, like eye contact correction. So even if you are kind of reading the script, you can, in post-production, you can make it look like you're not. But beyond just the eye contact too, like there are performing a script and making it seem really natural is not easy. That's a particular skill. People train to do that. I've gotten fairly good at it because I've had years of experience producing podcasts and like writing voiceover narration and performing it. But it's almost like an actor, you know? So so I don't think that's a great strategy most of the time because again, you're going for authenticity. You want the video, you want to show up as yourself, not as a version of yourself that's reading like a carefully worded script. You really just want to show up and talk like you would talk to somebody if you met them at a networking event, you know?
Right.
In that
Right.
case, you wouldn't pull out a script and read it, obviously. You would just talk and like a
Right.
normal person. And the problem there is that I think for a lot of people, especially let's say the founder of a B2B startup, you just might not be comfortable just showing up and talking. You might not know
Right.
exactly what to talk about. You might have a million ideas. You might just feel uncomfortable and weird talking off the cuff. And you
Yeah.
don't have time to practice and practice and practice to the point where you get good at that, chances are. And so I think the best strategy is what we're doing right now, interview style. We did a little bit of prep, but it was mostly you sending me an email like, "What do you want to talk about?"
Right.
And I sent you back some ideas, and you're like, "Okay, cool, let's go."
Right.
And
Right.
now I'm showing up, and that's it, and we're just talking.
Yep.
And obviously, I'm not reading a script right now. We're just having a conversation, and I think that's the best way. I think people are at their best in the flow of conversation. And that's where the best content comes from. When you're not overthinking it, you're not being too careful about every single word. You're just kind of letting it fly. And you can always edit it, in post-production.
Right.
So it's not like you might screw up and that's fine.
Yep.
But I think that's the key. And like that's what I built, that's what we've built our whole business around. That's at the center of it. It's this interviewing model. It's nothing too complicated. It's not rocket science to use the cliche, although there's an art and a science to interviewing people. But I
Sure.
think that's the key. That is the key to getting really the kind of video that typically you want, that's authentic and not too scripted and not overproduced.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of where your value comes in when you're working with somebody that isn't me, for example. I can read a script and sound normal. I actually, you can probably tell the beginning of the show is scripted, but I do sit down and write it 5 minutes before the program every day. And but I've been doing this a long time. I'm also a performer, and a lot of people just don't have the same experience that you or I have. And so having that interviewer there, it just makes this so much easier. And we do this live, so we don't do really any editing. So what you see is what you get. And we do make mistakes, and we just, what the heck, this is part of the fun. Um, but what I love is that you also, then you have this choice where you can cut the interviewer out if you'd like, or you can have them in. I mean, it just gives you so many options, and it can help a person who's maybe not that comfortable. Um, just be themselves. And these, when we do this, it's not unlike when we're on a call when we're not broadcasting live. So
Right.
I love that. So we're kind of segued to the next topic, about why you need a not just video, but you need a video strategy. And so you mentioned, what is the objective? And then so there's two parts, I think, to the strategy. There's, okay, how are we going to do this thing? Are we going to do it interview style? Are we going to have a set? Are we going to just do it with our phone and be casual? There's all of those kind of, I would say, creative strategy considerations. But I think what you're talking about is, what is the video? Why are you using it? What's its impact on the business, and how does that work? Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So we're talking about video strategy in particular, right? And I mean, look, in a way, it's no different than having a strategy for any other kind of content and just having a marketing strategy generally, right? People talk about this all the time. It's you need a plan so that you're not just creating willy-nilly creating a bunch of content and throwing it out there and hoping something will happen, right? Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but then even when something works, you have no idea why. So you need a strategy so that you're actually following like a roadmap, a playbook, so that you can try things, test it, figure out what works, iterate, and also to have understand what are your goals with video. And I think they're not going to be different than any other kind of marketing content, right? Ultimately, the goal of all marketing is to grow revenue, right?
Right.
And in the B2B world, we know that, well, that means we're going to have to get people in the pipeline. We're going to have to engage them. Ultimately, depending on your industry, um, you probably want to get on a call with them. Again, they need to know, like, and trust you. The old cliche, but it's true. And that's the goal of all marketing, right? To get people in your funnel and down it far enough to the point where they know you, they've come to like you, they've come to trust you, and now they're actually ready to maybe fork over some money to buy your thing. That is ultimately the
Right.
goal. That goes for video and any other kind of content, just marketing generally. But I think every kind of content does have its own strategy, or you need a strategy for different kinds of content, and video is no different. So I feel like we've already talked a little bit about the how do you produce video. And as I was saying, the interview method is the one that I prefer for all the reasons that I just talked about. Um, and that's both, I think, a strategy, and then you have to execute it. So there are, the tactics. So we could go into that if you want, sort of the ins and outs of how interviewing works. But then there's also the strategy comes in for, you mentioned before, it's not just video, it's specifically video for a purpose. And that purpose is to get people in the funnel and proceed through it, right? To nudge the buyer along their journey in the direction you want them to go. And so I think that a core part of the strategy there when it comes to video is creating different kinds of video for different stages of the funnel to engage prospects as they're moving along. And what I tend to see is, at least yeah, what I tend to see when with video, what people are doing is they're just kind of creating video, a bunch of clips, and putting them on LinkedIn, and then having a home for them on YouTube, let's say. And that's kind of it. That's a start, but that's only a start. What about the other stages of the funnel? What about outreach? Do you have a strategy for using video in outreach, let's say email outreach, or in a newsletter, or any other way that you're staying in front of your clients? I think people often ignore that. I almost never get outreach emails that have any kind of video embedded. I think it's a big missed opportunity because I'm much more likely to, just out of curiosity, if a video comes with a link to, or I'm sorry, if an email comes with a link to a video or like
Right.
a GIF, right? I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know if I want to buy from this person because I don't know them, but they did send me a video. I'll check it out. Let's see what's going on there, you know? And I think it's a big, big advantage for companies that do that, but it's very rare. I almost never get emails like
Well,
that,
isn't
you know?
it the thing is though, and you mentioned just so some of our viewers might not quite understand. So email clients can't natively play video, although we
That's
have
right.
discovered that the Adobe encoder can produce a type of MP4 that will play in the browser, but we're still researching that and trying to figure out. One of our animators sent us a rough animation in the video body and it played. I was like, what is this? So
Hmm.
usually what happens is, I mean, you could put a still in there, put a play button on it, and there is a real psychological pull to that play button. I mean, it's like,
Yep.
I got to push that button. But the other thing is you can take a little snippet of that video and make an animated GIF file
Right.
that will preview in the email. So it's really like a little animation, but that play button is the star of this play here. And so people just have got to click on it, man. And so, but yeah, I almost never see that. Now, this program, the strategy behind it is okay, we do it live. That's for efficiencies. We take it and we distribute it widely. We split off the audio and we distribute that. We take the episodes, we cut them down into smaller pieces. We rerun them in social media. We have an email that goes out that has, hey, these are the top episodes from the month.
Yeah.
And we use it in all these different ways. But having said that, we don't have a lot of funnel specific video like on our website, right? And we should. And
Hmm.
I think,
Well,
I'll be bugging you about that.
right. I mean, so that's another use case, right? That's another part of the strategy because obviously your website is an important part of the funnel, right? That's a place you do want to get your prospects to, right? Once they're in the funnel going a little bit down. And yeah, in my experience, I don't see a lot of video being done well on websites. I don't see much video at all on the typical website. And the video I do see is usually not great. It's usually overproduced. It's like too corporate-y. It's too much. It's not personal. It's too much like here at Company X, we're all about blah, blah, blah. And there's music and like a shot of, going over some big city or something. And I just immediately ignore those because I'm like, yeah, this is just all stock stuff. This is marketing. What I want to see is I go to whatever, some SaaS platform I'm checking out. And right there in the hero section is a little GIF that I can click and boom, it pops up and oh, there's the CEO welcoming me. Hey, welcome to our company. It's great that you're here. Here's what we're all about. You know, make it personal, make it a direct address. Keep it short for sure, but you can do that throughout your website strategically. And there's some technology I've seen where instead of just having the embedded video, from YouTube or whatever, and just like embedded on your site, like hosted there, it's like a little bubble that you can click and then the video pops up. I like that. It's really cool. So
Yeah.
it's not, it's a little more designed. And if you do that in the right way, and again, if you can capture your CEO, your founder, whichever subject matter expert makes sense, to kind of pop up on your website strategically, you don't want to overdo it and keep the video short, 15 seconds here, 20 seconds there. Imagine like, for example, in a pricing section, right? Like what's the experience in a pricing section is because that's often the first place a lot of people will want to go, right? Okay, how much does this cost? Let's just get table stakes right here. And you click and you can kind of glance and get a sense. And sometimes it's a little confusing, but it's like you don't have much context for, okay, why are the prices set where they are? Like what's going on here? Imagine if there was a little video you could pull up and it's someone just giving you a little context, like, hey, you're checking out our pricing. Cool. Let me explain a little bit like where we're coming from with the pricing and the different tiers and like
Right.
that would just make it a much more personable experience and again all along you're just getting to know the company a little bit better through its spokesman who's showing up in a really natural way you know I've never seen that. I don't see any companies doing that. I just think it would be really cool and really effective as a way to increase conversions on a website.
Well, and I can speak for us. It's a lot of effort. And so that's where I think I fall down is we do put a lot of effort into this podcast. It's every single week. And I always think while I'm dressed up and the lighting is all right, I should make a couple more videos. But honestly, I can't wait to get out of this tie. And so, but that is a great idea. And again, that video in a situation like that is going to take over. People will skim the text. They will watch the video.
Yeah.
And so, but hang on just a second here. I need to do a little thing. And so, so if you're getting this, if you're hearing this out there in podcast land, we are on every major podcast platform. We do have just rounding up to 30,000 subscribers now. And so, but most of them are hearing just the audio. So I want to let you know there's more to the program that's video. And so you can go to B2B marketing mindset. .com. It is on your screen as we speak. And there you can get the rest of the story. And there's a lot more content. There's hundreds of videos, just a treasure trove of knowledge. We have amazing guests every week. And so there's just a lot more information there. So subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, but head over to b2bmarketingmindset.com, get the rest of the story. So I have to do a little business there.
Yeah, no worries. Well, Peter, can I jump in real quick? I want to pick up on something that you
Please
just
do.
said. That, you just said that often it occurs to you like, oh, I should do some video, but it's hard. And I think that's true when you don't have a plan for how to do it, when you don't have a system in place to consistently produce video on a regular cadence. Then it becomes something that's like, oh, yeah, okay, I want to do these videos, but I don't have time. what exactly am I going to talk about? I got to set up all the stuff. I think that's often why it doesn't happen, like at a given company. And,
Hmm.
let's just take, for example, like a B2B startup, like professional services startup or scale up, and they have a marketing person and they know that, like, yeah, it would be awesome to have our founder on video all across the funnel, but it's hard to make that happen. It seems hard, right? For all kinds of reasons. Like, one, the founder's super busy. And so it's just hard to pin them down and get time. That person may not be comfortable on camera. They just might not want to do it because they've tried it and it's like super awkward, and people don't want to look or sound stupid. Um, they might not really know what to talk about. It feels overwhelming. Like,
Right.
and so you're just like, well, I guess we just won't. It's easier not to do it than to do it because it seems so hard, but it doesn't have to be. And really, what you need is a system in place to make it as easy as possible for the subject matter expert to show up and do what we're doing now. Just have a simple conversation where they can show up and be themselves and talk about the stuff that they talk about all day long, every day. They're just not recording it. And the system doesn't have to be any more complex. And again, let's say you're head of marketing at one of these companies. It doesn't have to be any more complex than we're going to have a weekly meeting on your calendar, right? Just like a weekly event on your calendar. And maybe it's just once a month or whatever cadence makes sense. And when the lick and when your founder or CEO clicks that link, they show up in a recording platform and you're there waiting for them. And you've planned out a little bit ahead of time, right, with them, let's say, what we're going to talk about. Here are a couple of questions I'm going to ask you. Nothing too involved. All the founder has to do, if you can set up a system where all they have to do is click the link, show up, and then just have a conversation and be interviewed, and then they can say, okay, bye, and go back to being the founder and doing all the other million things they need to do. That's easy, right?
Absolutely. And
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 then on
even
your end, and then on your end, of course, you need a system for then producing the videos and so on. And we can talk about that. I mean, there's all kinds of platforms now that are making it easier and easier to use AI to produce video.
yep.
You can hire someone to do it for you if it makes sense, right? But I think the key is getting the raw material and getting the right kind of raw material in the first place and getting it on a regular basis so that you don't find yourself in the situation of like, oh shit, we haven't published a video in a couple months, and and now we have to set up this whole system and get the CEO, and he never wants to do it. No,
Right.
just get in the groove of doing it. It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Well, and have the equipment set up. I mean, this is how we do it. We have everything is set up all the time. And so it's a matter of flipping a few switches. It takes us about an hour to get ready. And that's probably a little longer, but I actually don't even think about this program until about an hour before we go live. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a founder and I run a company, I run three companies. And so we have to be as efficient as possible. So I want to mention real quick, we're going to go to our next point about what a full funnel video strategy looks like. We usually run about 40 minutes, and we're right there now, but we'll go a little longer today. I think it's a great topic. But I wanted to mention that our next week we have the VP of PR with Nelson Schmidt, which is a fantastic agency in Milwaukee, big agency, Shelley Schumacher. So you want to tune in for that. But you know, one of the talking points was, what is a full funnel video strategy? What does it look like? And I think you hinted at it earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we've already been talking about it a little bit, but it basically means, again, crafting video specifically for the different stages of your funnel. And so, as
Okay.
we all know, the funnel, there's the top, there's the middle part, and then there's the bottom.
Right.
And you would want and need different kinds of video for different parts of it, right? So at the top, you want that thought leadership kind of video, and you want to publish it on places like LinkedIn or, depending on what your business is, wherever your audience is, you want to publish that video. And part of the strategy is doing it consistently, just like for any kind of content, right? And of course, with messaging that resonates with your core audience and all those things, right? But so you have a specific kind of video for the top of the funnel to engage people and just get them to pay a little bit of attention to you. So they put like one toe into your funnel and they're willing to spend a little time with video you, and then hopefully if you do it consistently, you're going to keep showing up and they're going to come to see you as an authority, right? As an expert, and keep tuning in because they know every time they're going to learn just a little bit more about the stuff you're talking about that's going to help them. So that's top of the funnel, right? Middle of the funnel, maybe that's let's say that's your website, right? You've earned enough trust so that people are now clicking through to your website and they want to learn a little bit more. So as we've already talked about, it's a great idea to keep showing up as yourself on your website in the ways that we just talked about, you know? And then there's the bottom of the funnel. And now we're talking about case studies, testimonials, stuff like that.
Right.
And there's all different kind of ways to do that. But since we're talking about video, right, you should have some video versions of case studies and testimonials so that people are just like they're seeing you showing up being yourself, they're seeing your clients showing up and being themselves, talking about you, saying all kinds of good things, right? Um, and and everywhere in between in the funnel. I mean, as we've talked about, another use case is in your outreach. So um, when you're doing an email campaign to do what we were talking about, mix some video in there. If you're a large enough company that you have a sales team, like a built-out sales team, enable your salespeople to be able to show up on video in outreach, wherever they can.
Right.
And so I think like there's more to say about this, but I think that's basically what we're talking about, the top, middle, bottom, and having a strategy, a video strategy for each of those sections. And that simply means, producing the kind of video that's going to resonate best with your audience at every stage.
Yeah, and I think I mean, literally, this is your value proposition. This is where you can help. Like it's easy to get overwhelmed with this stuff. A lot of companies, SaaS companies in particular, they have a demo. They'll often push that demo much too early in the funnel. To me, that's
Mm,
like a middle funnel thing. Then
yeah.
pricing explanations lower in the funnel. And so, Jeremy is an expert in that. So I'd encourage you, if this sounds interesting, to reach out to him. You can find him on LinkedIn. What's the website?
Expertcontentpros.com.
.com. You can find him there, and I would definitely we'll be talking more about this as well. But one of the interesting things, we'll combine these last two things here: strategies and tools for producing video, and AI is taking an increasing role. And I saw a stat that says I think 73% of companies that are using video are using AI somewhere in their production
Yeah.
process. Tell us a little more about that.
Well, I think at this point, pretty much every video editing tool has some kind of AI functionality, right? Like you just can't, it's totally ubiquitous and you can't escape it. I know all the tools that I use, like one of them is Descript, which a lot of marketers are familiar with. You upload audio or video, it creates a transcript, and you can edit the video by editing the transcript. And that's become pretty common now. I think Descript pioneered it. So, and then Descript has a bunch of AI functionality, just like all the other platforms too, where, for example, you can upload your 10-minute video file and then use the AI to automate the process of creating clips, right? That's one pretty well established and pretty well known kind of AI tech that's been out there for a little while now. Um, but it's evolving really, really rapidly. Like just earlier today, I was experimenting with a platform that allowed you to create video by through AI chat. And so it felt a lot like it was set up a lot like something like ChatGPT, right? Where you're just telling the AI, here's the kind of video I want, and it'll ask you follow-up questions, who's your audience, all those things. And you give it enough information and then click and it produces a video for you, like from scratch. The outcome in this, and I think that's very much still a work in progress. The video it created, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. It's nothing I would publish. It's not there yet, but it's all heading in that direction. And I think before too long, um, that's how it's going to be. You'll have platforms that just use conversational AI, and they'll coach you through every part of the way, you know. Like when and I've been toying with the idea, just thinking about an AI platform that handles the pre-production as well as the post-production. And that's something I have not seen yet. All the planning and preparation and even doing the interviewing and stuff like that, right? How cool would that be? But that's a whole other topic that we could talk about another time. For me personally, I think where we are with editing tools and especially AI functionality, we're in kind of a middle ground. At least in my personal experience, I haven't yet found an AI platform that can do everything completely automated and do it perfectly, like to the degree that I want it to. There's still quite a bit of tweaking that you need to do once the clip's been created, let's say, even to the point where there's so much tweaking that you need to do that at least for me so far, I'm like, I'll create the clip because I know exactly what I want. And at the end of the day, it's even faster because I don't have to keep iterating with the AI.
Right.
But as I said before, I think that is going to change very quickly. And I think really like before long, all these platforms that are automating the clip creation process are just getting better and better and better. And before too long, they'll be even better at it than a person could be.
And all the video editors out there now are just cringing a bit. I'm the same way actually, because usually if I'm making a video, I'm also writing it and shooting it. So by the time it comes time to edit, we have broadcast edit capabilities here. And so, I mean, our technology is all very new, but we're pretty old school in the way that we make this stuff. Pre-production is a huge job. Um,
Yeah.
Usually not for this type of video, but for the other types of video that we've produced in the past, like episodic television type video.
Yeah.
But that's my same thing. I mean, I can edit this, or my producer here, Enzo, he can edit this so much faster because he's actually watching this broadcast right now and he's taking notes, and he can get in there and chop this up faster and more precisely than any AI so far. And we haven't spent a lot of time messing around with it yet, so that's maybe one caveat there. Like I think it's something to keep up on, but the tools, what's happening, and it's across the whole marketing communication spectrum, the tools are enabling just about anybody to produce something. Now,
Yes.
is that something going to be strategically what's going to work and be effective and represent you the way that you want to be represented? Maybe not. I think there always is going to be a human element to pull this together and to make it sing.
Yeah.
Canva's a great example. I hate Canva. I hate anything to do with it. Good for you if you use it. I don't care. But the thing is, it's like if I bought an F1 car, it doesn't make me a race car driver. Okay,
Yes.
so I think the human elements. I don't think it will ever be replaced. But by the time it does, I'll be gone off of this earth, and so I don't care if I'm wrong, right? Um,
Or Pete, there'll be an AI facsimile of you that will
it's
just replace you, and you'll never die.
I
And
love that. And if I have a choice in the creative, I'd like my head to be in a jar, like floating in a jar. That
right,
would be
right.
awesome.
But let me say this, because I think you bring up a good point. The the technology is moving forward at like lightning speed, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, there's new tools every day. They're almost all focused right now when it comes to video on the post-production, right? Like I was saying before. So like you have your raw footage or whatever, feed it into the platform and it'll take it from there and turn it into something awesome, create clips, text, whatever you want it to do. What I want to emphasize is that you still need the raw material to feed into the platform.
Right.
At least so far, the AI doesn't do that for you. And and I would argue that it's the quality of the raw material that is by far the most important part of this whole thing,
Absolutely.
because it's not really about the post-production. We were talking about this before. It needs to be good enough. The audio needs to be clear and clean. The video needs to be, at a high enough resolution, like at least 1080p, right? You need to have proper lighting, but all that is relatively easy to do. And more and more and more, the AI will be able to just take care of all that stuff. What the AI can't do for you, again, at least not yet, is have an awesome conversation with your founder
Right.
and capture that raw material. That part still needs to happen. And honestly, I think that's where the real magic happens. And that's why I put such emphasis. Like, if you really want to do this, you need a system in place to make that happen regularly. And
Right.
in some ways, it's the simplest thing in the world. Just having a regular conversation with your founder or CEO about the things that are important to your audience, capture that raw material. If you don't have the right raw material, no amount of production or post-production or anything is going to make any difference, right? If you're not talking about the right stuff, if you're not capturing your subject matter experts in a natural way, if you're not putting them in a position where they can like get out of their own way and stop overthinking everything and just talk and be themselves, that's the goal. That is the key. Once you have that, cool. You can do all kinds of cool things with it. AI can help you. You can make it look good. But even if you don't do much production at all, even if it's just a 30-second clip of your founder being his or her awesome self,
Right.
and showing up in the way that only they can because they're a unique individual. Once you have that, you don't need much else. You want to, in fact, you want to keep the production relatively minimal so you don't distract from that. That's the key
Right.
thing. Is at the end of the day, let's remember the goal here is not to create cool video. That's not your objective. That's a means to an end. The end being to earn trust, get people to know, like, and trust you, moving through the funnel so you're growing your business.
Right.
And my belief is, and again, this is right at the core of what we do in our company. My belief is that's all about getting into that conversational mode, and that's where the golden nuggets come from. Everything else is just to augment it a little bit, but nothing will work unless you're getting the pre-production right and you're having those conversations.
Absolutely. What a great topic. And there are so many subtopics to go into. And I would encourage you all to get a hold of Jeremy. I'm sure he's going to be appearing on the program again. But why don't we go to our final thoughts graphic, and we'll wrap this up for today. So why don't go ahead and what I'll share my final thoughts just to mix it up a little bit. I think video's here to stay. I think that the tools are getting better, they're getting easier to use, but I think that it would serve you really well to have somebody there that can draw the best version, the most authentic version of you out. If you're not somebody that's used to being in front of the camera or performing or speaking, and even those people that are experienced in that, when you add in the camera and the lighting and the audio and all the little things that have to be dealt with. I mean, I'm not doing this by myself. There's 3 of us here doing this, and 4 counting you. And so it's just great to have a little team that can help you do this. And especially if you're super busy, you can pop in. My friend Bill Leak I always laughed at him the way he would do it. Bill Leak would jump in. They'd have the set all set up. He'd jump in, do his thing, and be gone. That's really, I think, how you get it done.
Yeah. Well,
but
I guess
it's completely worth the work, I think.
Yes. And I guess my final thought along those lines would be, look, you're doing, like we talked about before, you're doing a live stream. So that's a little more complicated, right? There's more moving parts and pieces. If your goal is to have video as part of your marketing strategy, or maybe even have it at the center, do video focused marketing, get your subject matter experts on camera for all the reasons we've been talking about. It doesn't have to be that complicated, but you do need a system. In fact, you want to keep the system as simple as possible, with as few moving parts as possible. And like at Expert Content Pros, we essentially do 2 things for our clients. We have some clients where we'll do that for you. We'll just take over that whole process, set it up, we'll do the interviewing, everything, and just deliver the content. But we also have an offer where we'll teach you what we do. We will teach you how to do it. Because we have a system in place. You'll learn our system. You'll learn all the moves. and you'll come out the other side of this program fully equipped to do this in-house and just keep getting better and better and better at producing regular video content. And, look, if I was a marketing lead at a startup or whatever, and it was my job to help grow the company, that's what I'd want to do. I think I'd want to learn how to do it. Even if ultimately I'm like, okay, there are parts of this I want to farm out, or ultimately maybe we'll hire someone else to do it. I'd want to know how it works. I'd want to know what we're doing. I would want to at least have the capability internally in my team to know how to set up something like this. So when the time is right, we can actually implement it and get just the kind of content we want. And again, it's not rocket science, doesn't have to be super complicated, but it can really help to have someone guide you along the way and just show you how it works and how to set things up. And then you're ready to go, and you can be off on your own, producing video at scale and really, taking your company's growth to the next level.
Well, and I will tell you this, sorry, we got an errant graphic running. It's live video. What really attracted me is you said, look, I can give you a month's worth of video in a day. And it's like that level of efficiency.
60 minutes.
60 minutes, not even a day. I mean, it's amazing. So I think that is an incredible value prop. So thank you, Jeremy. Great interview with you today. Thank you so much for making this program better. And we always appreciate that. So join us every single week, every Thursday, 11 o'clock Central, everywhere fine video and podcasts are consumed. So we will see you next week. Stand by.
You've been listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfre and Bill Lowell. Add to the conversation by commenting, sharing, and liking. And don't forget to subscribe and check out the links in the comments. Learn more at b2bmarketingmindset.com.